The rain fell like a punishment. 2:14 a.m., Seoul, Haenyang General Hospital. Han Soeun had been on her feet for 11 hours. Her shoes were worn at the heel. Her lunch had been half a triangle kimbap eaten standing over a medication cart. She had 12 more patients to check before she could sit down. Then the radio crackled. Multiple GSWs incoming, ETA 4 minutes. GSW, gunshot wounds. The trauma bay went cold. Not panicked, cold. There is a difference. Panic is loud. This was the specific silence of people who had just understood something and had decided, very quickly, that they wanted no part of it. Because the ambulances weren't the only thing coming. 3 black SUVs pulled into the bay first. No sirens, no markings. They parked like they owned the building, one blocking each exit, one positioned facing outward, engines still running. The doors opened and men stepped out who did not look like anyone's family member and were not wearing anything that said hospital visitor. They stood, they watched, they said nothing. The 2 security guards at the bay entrance looked at each other, made a silent agreement, walked in the opposite direction and did not come back. Soeun watched this from the 4th floor window and felt her stomach drop. Then the ambulance doors opened and she forgot about everything else. He came out on a gurney, unconscious, oxygen mask, blood soaked through 3 layers of bandaging on his left side, still leaking, the dark, slow kind that meant something internal. And even like that, even destroyed like that, he looked like someone you did not want to have made an enemy of. The paramedics were talking fast. GSW to the left flank, suspected liver laceration, BP crashing, 2 large-bore IVs in, 1 unit of packed cells already running and not making enough difference. Then one of them said it. It's Dr. Kang Taemin, Dr. Kang Taemin. The trauma bay went from cold to frozen. Kang Taemin, Chief of Trauma Surgery at Sungmo Medical Center, published in 3 international journals. The surgeon other surgeons spoke about in slightly quieter voices. 34 years old and already the kind of name that made department directors straighten their posture. He was also, in this moment, 2 minutes from internal hemorrhage, and nobody was moving. Soeun looked around the trauma bay. The nurses were backed against the wall. The residents were staring at the floor. Dr. Choi, 20 years in emergency medicine, had his arms crossed and his jaw set and was staring at a point somewhere above the gurney that was not the patient. She looked at the man near the trauma bay entrance, one of the SUV men. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. He was just standing there, and his presence alone had turned an entire emergency department into a room full of people who suddenly didn't know how to do their jobs. The monitor showed Taemin's blood pressure dropping another 4 points. Soeun grabbed gloves. Soeun, Minjung seized her sleeve. Don't! Look at those men! We don't know who… He's bleeding into his abdominal cavity. She was already moving. Get me 2 units of oneg, a pressure infuser, and someone page the surgical resident, now. Soeun! Soeun! She stopped, just for a second. He's going to die in the next 6 minutes. I didn't become a nurse to watch that happen. She moved to his side. The man near the door watched her. She felt it, his gaze like a hand on her shoulder. She didn't look at him. She didn't have time to be afraid of him. She worked the way she'd been trained, not at a prestigious school, she couldn't afford that, but at a regional college that drilled emergency skills like lives depended on it, because they did. Second large-bore IV, pressure infusion of packed cells, fast ultrasound to confirm the free fluid, airway management when he shifted and gagged. She leaned close to his ear. You're in Haenyang General. You're safe. Stay with us. His hand moved. Just slightly, just barely, but it moved. The resident finally arrived. Then 2 nurses, apparently deciding that if Soeun was still standing, it was survivable. Dr. Choi reappeared, professional instinct finally winning over whatever else he'd been calculating. Taemin went to the OR at 2:41 a.m. Liver laceration. 4 hours of surgery. He survived. The men in the SUVs waited until 7 a.m., confirmed he was alive, left without a word. Soeun walked home in the rain, told herself it was over. She had done her job. She had saved a stranger's life. She had no idea she had just changed her own. 3 days later, a delivery arrived at the nurse's station, addressed to her, full name, not the department, her. A meal kit from a restaurant Minjung had to search twice because she didn't believe the first result. She turned her phone to show Soeun the menu prices. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "This place has a 3-month waiting list," Minjung finally said. "No sender listed." Soeun told herself it was a mistake. She didn't open it. She left it on the counter, went back to work. The next morning, the pharmacy called. Her mother's medication, the immunosuppressant that cost 340,000 won per month, the one that Soeun calculated every other expense in her life around, had been paid 3 months in advance by an account registered to Kang Medical Services. She stood in the hospital corridor holding her phone, and her blood went cold. She called the number, was transferred twice, finally reached a voice that told her the payment was a charitable donation and could not be reversed under the foundation's charter. She asked to speak to Dr. Kang. Dr. Kang is unavailable. She called again the next day, and the day after. That same week, Director Park called her into the office. Director Park, the woman who ran the department like a military general, who had told Soeun during her first year that praise was reserved for competence that exceeded expectations, and she hadn't seen it yet, stood up when Soeun walked in. Actually stood up. "Nurse Han, there's a position opening in the ICU, full-grade promotion. The committee reviewed your—" "I didn't apply for anything." Brief pause. "These things go through proper channels. Who requested this?" Director Park looked at her with an expression Soeun had never seen on her face before. Fear. "I suggest you simply accept," she said quietly. Soeun left. That night, walking home, she couldn't afford the subway and the pharmacy both. She noticed the car, black sedan, parked at the corner of her street with 2 wheels on the curb, the way you park when you stopped quickly and recently. Someone in the driver's seat. She walked faster. She got home, she checked her mother. She sat in the kitchen that was also the living room because the apartment didn't have room for both, and opened her laptop. She searched Kang Taemin, medical journals, conference appearances, hospital galas. Normal. Then she scrolled further. A news article from 4 years ago, a financial investigation. The Kang Group, real estate, logistics, private healthcare, and allegations of illegal transfers, the patriarch, his sons, and one line, almost buried, almost careful. The youngest son, currently working in medicine, has no formal connection to the group's operations. The youngest son's name was Kang Taemin. Soeun closed the laptop. She thought, what has he done to my life without my permission? She thought, and how do I stop it? She had no idea that stopping was no longer possible. She went to Sangmo Medical Center on her day off. She told herself she was being rational. She would find him, she would say what needed to be said, and she would go home. Simple. The receptionist stared at her like she'd asked for the moon. "Do you have an appointment with Dr. Kang?" "No, I just need 5 minutes." The receptionist made a quiet call. "Dr. Kang is in surgery. I'm sorry." Soeun sat in the lobby. She waited 40 minutes, telling herself to leave, not leaving. Then the elevator opened, and she understood for the first time what she had been dealing with. In the trauma bay, he had been a bleeding man on a gurney. Here, upright, dry, in the white coat with the surgical badge, he was something else entirely. He was the kind of person that a room subtly reorganized itself around. Not because he was loud, he wasn't, he barely made noise, but because every other element in the space seemed to understand that he was the fixed point. He saw her before she stood up, across 40 people in a hospital lobby. He found her without looking. He walked directly to her, stopped. "Nurse Han," he said, low, measured, every word selected in advance. "You know my name," she said. "Yes." "You paid for my mother's medication." Silence, which was a yes. "You arranged the promotion." More silence. "Stop. Her voice was steady, but something underneath it wasn't. "I don't want anything from you. I did my job, that's all this was. I need you to stop whatever you're doing to my life." He looked at her for a long moment, not dismissively, the opposite, with the particular attention of someone who was actually fully listening, which was rarer than it should have been. "Your mother's condition is manageable with proper care," he said. "She'll need the medication another 18 months. After that, there are surgical options." Soeun stared at him. "I reviewed her file." "You're not her doctor. You can't access—" "Your building's loan company has been pressuring you," he continued, same calm. "That will stop." "What did you do?" "Nothing illegal." A pause that lasted exactly long enough to be threatening. "Yet." The word dropped between them like a lit match. She looked at him, really looked at him, and stopped pretending she didn't understand what she was looking at. The frozen hospital staff, the men who'd stood like statues in the trauma bay, Director Park's face, the car outside her building. "Who are you, actually?" He held her gaze. "A doctor," he said, "among other things." Among other things. She thought about those 3 words constantly, during 12-hour shifts, during the single kimbap she ate standing up, during the walk home that she took because the subway and the pharmacy couldn't both happen in the same week. Among other things. The loan company stopped calling. She hadn't given him permission, but they stopped. 3 weeks of escalating calls. "Nurse Han, the payment is overdue. Nurse Han, we will escalate. Nurse Han, there are procedures." And then nothing. When she called them, the account manager had been replaced, and the new one looked at her file and said her terms had been restructured. Her mother's specialist was now a kidney professor from Yonsei University Hospital, one of the best in the country. She didn't know him, she hadn't requested him. When she asked who referred him, he smiled like he hadn't heard the question. Then there was the man in the gray jacket. She noticed him first outside the hospital, then at the subway entrance. Then her chest contracted when she saw it, near her building. She called Taemin. She had his card. She had told herself she would never use it. She called at 11 p.m. from her kitchen, mother asleep, rain on the window. He answered on the second ring.
"There's a man following me," she said without introduction. "I've seen him 4 times in different locations. Tell me if I should go to the police or if that will make things worse." A pause. Brief. Then, "Describe him." She described the gray jacket man. Longer silence. "Go inside. Lock your door. Don't open it until I tell you." "Who is he?" "Someone who made a mistake." His voice was quieter now, which was somehow worse than if it had been loud. "I'll handle it." Taemin. Her own use of his name surprised her. He heard her register it. "I don't want anyone hurt." The pause that followed was not reassuring. "I'll handle it," he said again. The gray jacket man never appeared again. She told herself not to feel safe. She was already feeling safe. That terrified her more than the man in the gray jacket ever had. Thursday evening, 9 p.m., the rear parking lot. She took this shortcut every day. 8 minutes saved. She knew every car, every light post, every patch of broken asphalt. She didn't know the 2 men who stepped out from between the parked cars. She had time to understand what was happening before she had time to be afraid, and that was the only thing that kept her from running, which would have been the wrong choice. "Han Soeun," the first one said. He was smiling. The smile was the part that was frightening. "We'd like to extend an invitation." "From whom?" "People who want to discuss your relationship with Kang Taemin." Relationship. The word was chosen precisely to implicate her, to make her feel already inside something she hadn't agreed to enter. "I don't have a relationship with him." "That's unfortunate." He stepped forward. 1 step. Enough. "Because the people we represent believe otherwise. They'd like you to deliver a message. Simple. Tell Dr. Kang that certain business negotiations would move faster if personal attachments weren't complicating his judgment." She looked at him. She thought about 11-hour shifts, about holding a patient's hand while he coded, about the particular stillness required to do this job without collapsing. "I'll tell him," she said. He seemed genuinely surprised. He'd expected tears, begging, something useful to report back. "Make sure he understands we're serious," the man said. "I will." She met his eyes fully. "I'm a nurse. I've sat with people while they die. I've held patients through things that would break most people in half. You are not the most frightening thing I've faced today." She walked past them. Her hands shook the entire subway ride home. She called Taemin from the platform. He didn't answer. 7 minutes later, he called back. She told him every word. The silence that followed was different from his usual silences. "Which exit?" she asked. "Taemin, who are they?" "Park Jong-hak's men." He said the name the way a doctor names a terminal diagnosis. Clinical, absolute. "They've wanted a concession for 6 months. They thought you'd be efficient leverage." Leverage. She was leverage now. "What happens next?" she asked. "They made a mistake." The contained quality in his voice was beginning to show its edges, like something pressurized and the pressure building. "I'll handle it."
"Don't go to work tomorrow." "I can't miss work." "Soeun." Her name, just her name. "Please." She called in sick for the first time in 2 years. She spent the next 24 hours in the apartment she couldn't afford to leave, listening to her mother's radio, not sleeping, trying not to think about what was happening somewhere in Seoul in her name. 2 days later, she found out that Park Jong-hak's 3 shell accounts had been exposed to financial crimes enforcement, that 2 of his senior advisors had developed sudden, urgent reasons to leave the country, that the 2 men from the parking lot had experienced a dramatic revision of their career goals. She found out because Taemin told her. He came to the hospital himself. No convoy, no warning, just him walking through the lobby in the white coat like he worked there, and sat across from her in the family consultation room and told her in flat, factual sentences. "Jong-hak has agreed to terms. You won't be approached again." "What terms?" "The kind he didn't enjoy agreeing to." "Did you hurt anyone?" A pause. "Nothing that required hospitalization." She stared at him. "That's your threshold? Hospitalization?" He didn't answer, which was an answer. She asked to meet him somewhere real, not the hospital, not a lobby, a Pojong matcha near her building, the old one on the corner, plastic sheeting walls, cheap stools, tteokbokki too spicy, makgeolli that a bottle, the most un-Kang Taemin location she could construct. He arrived exactly on time. He sat on the small plastic stool without comment, ordered makgeolli, didn't make a face at the cup. In his dark jacket, no entourage, under a yellow tarp in the rain, Seoul had not stopped raining, he looked completely, absurdly out of place, and he didn't care even slightly. She waited until she had enough of her own cup to have the conversation. "I can't do this," she said. He waited. "Your world, I'm in it now, and I didn't choose that, and I know I can't undo it." She pressed her fingers around the warm cup. "But I need you to tell me what you actually want, because I've been refusing to ask, and it's making me feel like I'm going crazy." He was quiet long enough that she started to regret asking. Then, nothing. She looked up. "I don't want anything from you." No inflection, just fact. "I know how everything I've done looks. Calculated, strategic. I know. How does it look to you?" He turned his cup once on the table, deliberate. "I have spent 15 years knowing exactly what I am to every person around me, knowing what they want, what they'll do. I've had bodyguards take bullets for me. That's a transaction." He stopped. "In that trauma bay, you didn't know who I was." "I knew you were dying." "Yes." Something shifted in his face. Barely, but she was watching. "You treated that like it was enough reason to risk yourself." A longer pause. "I've never had that before." The tteokbokki was going cold. Neither of them touched it. "I'm scared." "Of me?" "Of disappearing." Her voice stayed even, but it cost her. "I built something, small but mine. I know what it costs to have dignity when you have nothing. And people like you..." She stopped. "You don't come into lives like mine without changing everything.
and I don't know if who I am survives that." He was completely still. "I know," he said. "That's not enough." "I know that too." And then something happened that she hadn't seen before, something that looked like it had gotten out past the wall he maintained around every word, every expression, everything. "I don't know how to be careful with you the way you need. I only know one way to handle threats, and I'm aware it's too much," she said. "Yes, so stop." He looked at her across the small table. "I can't," he said. The rain hit the plastic sheeting overhead. The city moved around them, loud and indifferent and neon lit, and she understood then, in the yellow light of a cheap tent restaurant, with cold tteokbokki between them and his admission hanging in the air, that this was not going to resolve into something safe, and that she was no longer sure she wanted it to. Tuesday, gray afternoon, ginkgo trees stripped bare. She was mid-medication round when Minjung grabbed her arm. Men in the lobby, voice barely above a breath. "They're asking for you by name. Security isn't doing anything." She called Taemin immediately, no answer. Called again, nothing. She could hear them now, not loud, that was the worst part. Quiet authority moving through the building, the sound of people who didn't expect resistance. She heard her name at the nurses' station downstairs. Then the fire alarm screamed. She never found out who triggered it. Evacuation protocol moved 50 people down the emergency stairs and into the ambulance bay in under 4 minutes, the specific efficient speed of a hospital that drills this. Soeun moved with it, coat grabbed, bag grabbed, out into the gray autumn air, and stopped. 3 black SUVs, her side of the bay, 2 dark, unfamiliar cars blocking the other side, and Kang Taemin standing between them, still in the white coat, which meant he had come from a procedure, which meant he had left mid-consult, which meant she understood this in a rush that made her chest tight, that he had already known somehow before she did and had come anyway. He was speaking to a man she recognized from her research, Park Jung-hak, heavier than his photos, older, and he was looking at Taemin with the expression of a man who had made several consecutive logical decisions that were only now, together, revealing themselves as catastrophic. One of Jung-hak's men moved. It was fast. She was not close enough to see all of it. She was glad, later, that she wasn't. When it resolved, Jung-hak was against his own car and Taemin was speaking to him quietly from very close, and whatever he was saying caused Jung-hak to go still in the specific way of a man who has just correctly understood how wrong he was. The police arrived, real police, the kind that didn't look away. Later, weeks later, from a source she wasn't supposed to have, she learned that an anonymous tip had delivered financial crimes investigators a package of documentation on Jung-hak's operation so complete and organized that investigators privately described it as being handed a gift. She never confirmed who compiled it. She didn't need to. Taemin found her in the ambulance bay aftermath. He checked her, fast, visual, clinical, the way she checked patients. "You're okay," he said. "I'm okay." He exhaled, one breath. She saw what it cost him to hold it in until that moment.
"You left mid-consult," she said. "My PA covered it. Surgeons you don't leave. You called me and I didn't answer." His voice was quiet, the kind of quiet that meant the opposite of calm. "I was already coming when I got the call back." She looked at him in the gray afternoon light, autumn cold, the hospital chaos settling around them, and she said the thing she had been saying for weeks in a new way. "This has to end. Not us." She held his gaze. "This part, this specific part of your world. If you want to be near me, it stops." He was quiet for a long time. "Yes," he said. She waited for the qualifier, the but, the however. It didn't come, just Yes. Spring hit Seoul the way it always does, suddenly, shockingly, like the city remembered it was beautiful and decided to prove it all at once. Cherry blossoms on Yunjung Row, the Han River walking paths full again, that specific April light that made even Nawon district look like somewhere you'd choose to be. Soeun's mother went to her first real physical therapy session. She came home and sat at the kitchen table and cried quietly, thinking Soeun didn't notice. Soeun noticed. She sat beside her and held her hand and said nothing, because some things don't need words. The apartment was the same. She had been offered other things. She knew the offers were there, existing quietly at the edge of her awareness, offered the way Taemin offered everything, as options, not ultimatums. She kept the apartment. It was hers. That still mattered, maybe more now than before. She was head nurse of the ICU. The promotion she hadn't asked for had turned out to be real. She'd verified that herself, reviewed her own file, satisfied herself completely. She had earned it. The exhaustion and the scarcity had taken up the space where her actual capability had been living, and now that space was opening. Taemin was restructuring things. She didn't ask for details. She read what was available publicly and understood the shape of it, the Kang Group's medical division moving toward legitimate operation, documentably and formally, in a process being conducted with urgent efficiency. She understood this to be, among other reasons, for her. She had examined her feelings about this many times, late at night in the kitchen that was also the living room. She had concluded she was choosing, with full information, clear eyes, the specific self-possession of a woman who had spent years being careful and finally learned when to stop. He came on a Sunday, not to fix anything, not because there was a problem, because she had asked him to. She made doenjang jjigae, steamed rice, the small side dishes that took more attention than she usually had. Her mother sat at the table. Taemin sat across from her. Soeun stood at the stove and listened to her mother tell him about a student who had become a national chess champion and sent her flowers 20 years later. She listened to Taemin listen, completely, without the restlessness of someone waiting for his turn. She thought, this is the most dangerous man I have ever met, and he is listening to my mother talk about a chess champion from 1998. He's quiet, her mother said to Soeun when Taemin stepped out briefly. He is, Soeun agreed. So are you, her mother smiled, the lovely smile, even now. You both take up exactly the right amount of space. Soeun thought about an emergency room at 2 a.m., about rain and a man on a gurney, and her own hands that refused to stop. She had not saved him because she was exceptional. She had saved him because it was right, and because she was trained, and because she could not look away from a person who needed help. That was all, and that had been enough to change everything.
Taemin came back, sat down. Her mother was already telling another story. Soeun served the jjigae, steam rising, the small apartment warm. Outside, Seoul was lighting up, neon waking along the commercial streets, the Han River reflecting the last of the day, the enormous, tireless machinery of a city that never stopped for anyone. She sat down. She looked across the table, the mismatched bowls, the flickering overhead light, the man who had been the most feared person in every room he'd ever walked into, and he was looking at her the way he had looked at her since that first day in the lobby, like she was the thing everything else arranged itself around. She picked up her chopsticks. "Eat," she said, "before it gets cold." He smiled, small, real, unguarded in a way she had never seen from him before, like a man who had finally, for the first time, had somewhere to put everything down. She had saved a dying man in the middle of the night. She had not known his name, she had not known his world. She had only known that walking away was not something she was capable of, and he had spent everything he had to make sure she never regretted that.
Please like and subscribe.